everyone. Welcome back to the Tax Sisters podcast. We're here with Dan Anderson of Gilbert. We are going to talk a little bit about a couple different things that he's got his hands in. He is a registered investment advisor here, and he's helped our firm and a ton of our clients kind of get their things together, figure out future tax planning and investment strategies. So Dan, give us a little insight about you.
Thanks, Kristen.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, I'll probably say to everybody, I've been using Deirdre for taxes for, I don't know, 10 plus years probably.
Yeah, it's been a while.
And I think the biggest benefit I think I've gotten from the firm is probably tax savings through the use of an S corp and the different strategies there. So that's been great. So thanks for that. So I've been in the investment business since about 2010.
Okay.
And did get my registered investment advisor's license in 2016, which kind of changed everything. It made me a fiduciary to my clients, so putting the client first and just giving them more, options for investments and different types of investments over just insurance or things like that. So that's been great. We don't work with any type of investments that aren't sold on the stock market. So everything is, it's, I can't say the word safe because, there's risk to investing.
Yes,
but
of course.
There's a lot of companies that are putting out private investments and things like that. And when I hear people say, "Oh, I'm in a private investment," I kind of cringe because 9 times out of 10, those are a scam of some kind, or they fold within a few years.
I've actually been hearing quite a bit. One of my clients told me that they were investing with someone in Canada, and then all of a sudden, poof, all the money completely gone.
That's usually what happens. It's usually a Ponzi scheme of some kind. And the tough thing about the Ponzi schemes is it can take years to get your money back. They have to basically liquidate all the investments, and whatever's left over gets distributed to the people.
Yeah.
So that's a tough situation, but we don't deal with anything like that. We use a firm out of Minneapolis called Gradient Investments. They've been in business since early 2000, 2001 or so.
Yeah. I want to back up real quick. You said something, and we have a ton of different listeners, people who are just really starting out and someone who might be really versed in investments. So for the people out there, being, a registered investment advisor, help me. It's Wednesday. Right. I told Dee I needed a donut this morning to get me going. I didn't get a donut. But being a registered advisor, you said you're a fiduciary now. What does that mean to people if they're choosing to maybe looking between someone who's registered and not registered?
Well, basically, somebody that's not a fiduciary is usually somebody that sells packaged products. It's going to be like a Series 6 or 7 license that they're getting a commission off of the portfolio, and they might sell a package of mutual funds. I hate to say it, but it's a guy's first name labeled after a horse, and the last name, a very common name of a soda. They have packaged products, and basically they are told what to sell. So there might be, 50% of it might be, a basket of stocks, and then a basket of mutual funds, and maybe some ETFs and some different things.
Okay.
But usually the mutual funds are labeled by the company, so they're kind of double dipping. They're getting, a portion of the fees to the company, and they're almost double dipping in their own fees.
I see.
So you're going to pay more in fees, and they do put it in their disclosures, but nobody really reads it. It's a 30-page disclosure. And
everything's 30 pages.
Things like that,
plus.
but they don't have your best interest when they're being told what they have to sell you.
Okay.
I can sell any products from any company, put ETFs, mutual funds, whatever it might be. We tend to stay away from mutual funds because of the internal loads and fees inside of them, and they're just more costly to the client.
Yeah.
A lot of ETFs are the way they're taxed and things like that, which would be on your side. You're going to get less taxation on an ETF versus a mutual fund.
I see.
Yep.
I see. In your 10 years now going through the business, tell us a little bit about it. How's things changed? Have you found yourself, in a different space? Are you serving different clients? I know, just from my perspective, I feel like a lot of younger people are really trying to gain traction and start off early, when it used to be like, oh, when you're old and wise, let's start investing all of your money.
Yeah, well, my my youngest client is probably 1 year old, and it's my niece's son that she just had last year. And they're starting 529 plans and things like that, getting
Right.
things going, and which is a smart thing to do. Her parents, my brother and his wife are contributing to that, and any family member can basically contribute to a 529.
Yeah.
So it's exciting to get younger people involved, and their young family. They're in their late 20s. So.
Yeah.
And then they've started with their own investments and also life insurance and things like
Right.
that. So basically things to protect their future,
Of course.
which is nice. So I've got clients anywhere from 1 to, I want to say my oldest client right now is in Florida, and she's 93 years old.
Yeah, she's cooking. She's ready to go through it all.
Yeah, she's a pretty neat lady too. She worked under President Reagan
Really?
up in Washington, D.C. back in the day. Yeah.
That's crazy.
So pretty neat client to have.
Yeah.
So it kind of all walks of life. A lot of investment advisors discriminate. They'll say, oh, if you have $500,000, we'll talk to you. I kind of feel that if you have $1,000 or $1 million, it doesn't really matter.
You can make some sort of difference in what you're planning for, right?
Right. We can start portfolios for people with less than $1,000. So it's pretty easy for people to get started. They can, add $50 a month, $25 a month, make things pretty easy for investing, and it adds up pretty quickly, which is nice, and especially times like this right now with the market on the rise, it's pretty nice.
Yeah, I did see the market's on the rise as of this morning.
Yeah.
What's your space? Do you work in all the states? I don't know how investment works if you have to be registered in all the states.
Yeah, so I am registered in 4 states, but they do use the investment world uses what's called a de minimis feature, and with the exception of Texas, if you have one client in Texas, you need to be registered, but you can literally work with anybody in any state and have up to 3 clients in that state before you need to be registered.
Oh, okay, interesting.
Yeah, so they do give you a leeway on that,
Yeah.
which is kind of nice. But,
What are the 4 states that you're registered in?
Arizona, Minnesota, North Dakota, and Florida.
Okay.
Yep.
Nice,
So
big ones. Some
that
big
works
states.
out pretty good. Yeah, I've got ties to all the states, so
Yeah.
works out real good. And
What's your favorite thing to get younger people set up with? What's the thing that's really moving and grooving nowadays?
really just getting in just a traditional, core portfolio, really. Once they start that investing and see, where things are, I think we usually start the process with having to bring a bank statement in.
Yeah.
Because sometimes they say, well, I can't afford $50 a month or $100 a month. And then we go through and see the $50 app for Starbucks that they get loaded on.
Yeah.
And the 2-3
Little
times a
things.
month that gets loaded, whatever. But, we can go through, and I think people seeing their bank statement and what they're spending their money on is an eye-opener.
Yeah.
So we kind of start
know
with
that.
that, which is a little bit of financial planning as far as expenditures go. And then, start small, and gradually it seems like they kind of get used to, spending $50 or $100 a month. And
Right.
and sometimes they'll come and say, hey, I've got an extra $500, or I got a gift and want to put that money in there. But really just seeing the accounts grow for some of the younger people.
It was nice.
For sure, yeah.
Yeah. I know you work and you plan and help people with a score of things, but one of the things you do a lot is the IRAs. Tell us about that.
Right. Yeah, so a lot of IRA things. For the first part, I think I do get people anywhere from 40 to 60 that have left companies, and they've left 401ks at those companies. And
Yeah. You were telling me
which
about
is never really a great idea, because the company is ultimately the gatekeeper of that 401k, and if the company folds, there can be problems with guaranteeing the funds inside of the portfolio, and your investments aren't as broad as they could be with a registered investment advisor or some kind of a
Right.
planner. And fees are usually can be as high as 3.5% in a
Wow.
401k. And I think the biggest part is there's really nobody watching it. So
Yeah.
you
Most
stick
people
it
just,
in
like,
there,
let
and they
it go,
kind of
right?
forget about it. And matter of fact, I had one of our mutual clients. He's a client, and he had 3 401ks sitting around, and they were doing okay, but we were able to move those, and the performance that he's had on those the last couple of years has
Yeah.
been through the roof. So he's
I've actually
pretty
seen a
happy.
ton of Instagram reels and promotions, whatever ads
Right.
saying like, use our app and find all your missing 401ks. I think it's
Yeah.
called Beagle.
That could be, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's called Beagle.
But I find a lot of those, and some people are like, I didn't even know I had that.
Yeah, well, even think
Yeah.
about it. I bet people who even have short stints at companies, they could
Right.
have as little as $1,000, but some have a good chunk of money
Yeah.
that they leave
Oh,
behind.
for sure. Yep. That's a big part. Helping people take those 401ks, get them condensed down to one, and that's called a rollover when you take a 401 over to a Charles Schwab account.
Oh, I see.
It goes to it's called an individual IRA. It's a 401ks are for companies, IRAs for your personal. So
Yeah.
it does do a rollover and it becomes your IRA. So those are really easy to do. They don't take as much time as people think they do, as long as they have the HR name.
Right.
Can contact somebody at their company at HR. We can usually get those moved over
Get
within
those
7
moved over.
days. Yeah.
Nice.
And then
nice.
they have control of them and really don't have to worry about them as much anymore.
Yeah. What are the different options for IRAs?
Oh, I mean, we can really do just about anything. I think one of the main things I do with the IRAs is put them in our core portfolio,
Okay.
which is called the Core Select. It's about 50 to 80 stocks, large companies, Procter & Gamble, Home Depot.
Okay. Big guys.
NVIDIA, which is really good right now, Google, but it's large companies, dividend-paying stocks. And Gradient Investments' real focus is alpha investing, which alpha means you outperform a index. In this case, let's say S&P 500.
Yeah.
From October 1st to September 30th, the S&P was up about 30%, and then that Core Select portfolio was up about 36.
Oh, okay.
So they had a 6 alpha, 6 points above the standard, which would be the S&P 500.
Okay.
So I do get a lot of people that say, well, why don't I just invest in the S&P 500 and forget about it? There is around 500 stocks in the S&P 500, but you can beat that with a managed portfolio, like a Core Select or other things. They've brought out a lot of neat portfolios during COVID.
Yeah. I know things have been very aggressive. Everyone's
Right.
going into everything.
Right. So it was called the Contrarian Choice portfolio, and it's Warren Buffett style investing. So they looked at companies that got beat down during COVID, and I think in March or April of 2020 they came out and brought this portfolio out. They can kind of make portfolios in a snap.
Yeah.
That portfolio that year was up 132%.
Whoa.
So big numbers for that year. It's averaged, I want to say 23% since they brought it out in
Right.
2020. So that's been a neat portfolio. They've brought out a socially responsible, so more earth and people and things like that. So there's
Solar
always
and things. of those
right. So a little
sorts.
bit of all that, and that's averaged around 20% the last few years that's been out. They've got a digital discovery, which is really big. There's about 7 ETFs inside of that.
Is that like crypto? Or?
Yeah, it's crypto. It's NFTs.
NFTs are on the rise.
Metaverse, which is the new internet,
Yeah.
Internet 3.0, everything tied to that.
What's your opinion on the digital crypto, all those things?
I mean, I think you want to hold it, as a portion of your investment. I know people that, have stuck everything they've owned in it, and if you're in early, it's great, but you want to be a little bit cautious.
I heard Bitcoin's at its all-time high today.
Yeah, it's at about 75,000, I think.
Yeah.
So, and there is Bitcoin ETF inside of that portfolio. There's, I think, Ethereum ETF, the Metaverse. There's different things, but that portfolio this time last year, it's up 76%. So,
Wow.
things are moving forward on that, and it's only expected to get better, I think.
Better.
So that's kind of nice.
Yeah, we have a lot of, obviously from our the tax side, crypto still, I thought it'd be more regulated by now.
Right.
Yeah, I thought
getting
it
there.
would. It's getting there. I
Yeah.
know. I think they're just chomping at the bit, trying to get all their ducks
Right.
in a row.
Yep.
But people ask me all the time, they're investing in side cryptos and stuff like that.
Right.
And I was like, well, you got to manage that properly because
Right.
the big guys have it under control. Bitcoin and all that
Right.
stuff. They have, you
Yep.
can put it into those wallets and it gives you out the tax reporting, no problem.
Right.
It's just the little guys doing the
Yeah.
one-offs and those random apps And I'm like, what is
Well-
that in the black market crypto? I don't even know what this is.
Well, and that's kind of scary too, because there's one guy that had hundreds of $1 million in crypto and he lost his key. It's literally a combination of numbers and letters and whatever else, and he lost it, and it was gone forever. And there's no way of getting it back without that key. People can steal it from you, so you want to keep them protected. So the digital discovery portfolio is a way to be involved in that without having those types of issues for sure.
Yeah.
So that's been nice, and we usually say like 10% of a portfolio for something like that.
Yeah. That is something Dee says all the time, that, you know, it's good to be, I can't think of the word that she used, have your hands in a lot of pots, right? You don't want to, you know, go to the gambling table and put all your chips in black.
Right. Well, that just gets down to diversification.
There you go. That's the word she used. Be diversified.
Right. And
she says she's always, you know, imparting all of her intelligence on us.
Right. In the car purchasing.
Electric cars are up.
Yes, electric cars. So the funny thing about, we talked about diversification.
Yeah.
A couple years ago, we saw not only a stock market took a nice hit, but the bond market as well.
Okay.
It's not very often when both go down. The biggest thing two things. So Gradient Investments did sort of see that coming with the dropping of interest rates.
The trends and stuff, yeah.
Right. So they actually brought out what are called buffered portfolios, and they're literally buffer your portfolio all the way up to 100%.
Okay.
So you could go in and say, we're going to be in, 50% of my portfolio will be in this buffered option,
right?
And with no loss. So the market could go down 40%, and you just wouldn't make any money, but you couldn't lose money, right?
Okay.
And then if it goes up, it picks up, and it will buffer the top side of it as well. So if the market was up 18, you might only get 15, but the downside is you can't lose money as well. So those are pretty interesting. But along with that, I think you have to kind of stay above it, because that bond market, some investors saw it coming, but a lot of people had no clue.
Right.
And holding those bonds, there's different types of bonds. So a lot of people sometimes get the advisors, like the Series 6 or 7 advisors, want to give you more return on the bond. So they'll get you into what are called junk bonds. And the junk bonds are BB rated or lower. And I looked at one portfolio at about June of 2022, and he couldn't figure out why he was down so much while the junk bonds had taken a total dump. And there's risks of those companies completely going under, and you could lose your entire position in that bond. Yeah. And when he learned the position that he was in those bonds, I mean, he wanted out pretty much immediately. And it's hard for anything like that to come back unless you continue to hold it for the rates coming back
a lot long. And as we've seen, rates still haven't fixed themselves, so people can hold on to that stuff for a long time.
They kind of bounce back a little bit. I think, I'm not a mortgage guy, but I think everybody kind of looks at the mortgage rates.
Yeah.
And mortgage rates were over 7 again here in the last week or so. So things are kind of bouncing around a little bit, so we'll see what the Feds do on cutting rates here. Yeah.
Tomorrow, actually.
Yeah, it's already Thursday tomorrow, yeah.
Shoot.
I was thinking next week, but that's tomorrow.
Yeah.
So yeah, that could be kind of a kicker for the market, another little, if we see a drop, a nice kick in the market tomorrow as well.
Yeah. Do you work at all in helping people plan for CDs or anything like that?
Yeah, so I do have the ability to work with banks. Generally, banks don't provide the best interest.
Yeah.
We have a stable value fund that's a liquid account around 5%.
Okay.
So if people want cash, we usually leave it in cash. And a lot of times we just leave a section of their portfolio, like we look at the next 2 years on if they're going to take withdrawals, let's say. We'll leave a portion of that in cash so they can just take withdrawals out of it, but it's still earning money. But it's not in the market technically. It's in the market, but it's not. It's just cash money, and that way the rest of their investment can grow without taking from it and doing that. So it's a little bit more a part of the planning if you're taking income. And some people just like to have liquid cash sitting around.
Yeah.
most investments are liquid with the exception of like an IRA, 59.5, all that good stuff, paying 10% penalties before 59. But for the most part, people like to have cash in their portfolio.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think a lot of people are turning that way because I don't want to say everything's been a little volatile, just been uncertain.
Right.
Uncertain.
Right. And we do work with some annuities as well. So annuities, they have what's called multi-year guaranteed annuities. That's kind of like the CDs at the bank.
Okay.
And there's still companies that are having 3 to 7 year annuities that are paying around 5.5.
Okay.
So I think for right now, I tell people if they're going to do a CD style account or an annuity like that, go out and get it guaranteed as long as you can.
Okay.
Because rates are going to continue to go down.
Right.
So you won't be able to pick up on that. Like a lot of people have done 1 year CDs, and those CDs are coming due right now, and they're finding out that they're only getting, say, 3 or 4%.
I see.
So then when it comes due next year, and they've done, say, 3 or 4 rate cuts next year, they might be at 2%.
Okay.
So you want to try to look out as far as possible now if you have a portion of a portfolio that you just want some fixed money
good
in.
run.
Right.
Yeah, returns on.
Yep.
So let's switch gears. That was a lot of advice. Thank you.
Yeah,
That's a little way over my head, but I'll come to you if I have anything.
Okay. Thank you.
Let's switch gears into being the entrepreneur of yourself. How you've been in it for 10 years. What were you doing before? How's it going? How do you love being your own boss? Except for your kids, they're your boss.
They are my boss. Well, I tell you, I was in a large sales company prior to getting in the investment business, and there was around 800 salespeople, and I was in management with them, and I think I was number 32 when I left the company.
Yeah.
Out of 800 people, and it was great when there was 100 of us.
Yeah.
But it got washed out
Big
past
time.
100, and it was a privately owned company when I started, and when I left, it had been purchased by Masco Corporation, which is a large conglomerate. They work almost like Warren Buffett. They buy good companies and literally attach the checking accounts together.
Okay.
And management stays in place. Nothing really changes, but you could use their services, their lawyers, and their resources. And then human resource gets involved, and it completely changes the company. So after almost 20 years at that company, I decided it was time to
move on.
To move on and use degrees for something different. And I always kind of had a knack for numbers, and had a neighbor in the business, and he kind of introduced me to the business and went from there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So working for myself is great. Sometimes you start early in the morning at home and come to work after you drop kids off at school or whatever you need to do in the morning. You understand that with 3. Work during the day. Sometimes you skip lunch and you can leave a little bit earlier or whatever, and then there's days where you might not have a client on the calendar that day, and you say, I'm going to do some stuff at home and get a few things done to catch up at home.
Totally.
So you're kind of, you have to be a self-starter for sure. But
a lot of advice we give entrepreneurs is that, like, hey, you gotta want it pretty bad, right? A lot of people don't have. Are totally cool doing corporate America, going to work, clocking in, clocking out, same old. Yep. But when you work for yourself, you got to have the will in it to get up and do it, right? No one's going to do it for you. The company doesn't keep going unless you keep going.
That's for sure. And I'll tell you, you and Deirdre's business, when I first started on my own, I tried to do the tax thing on my own. Yeah. And it was just on my personal taxes. I was saving shoebox full of receipts. Yep. And then ended up getting in with you, and the whole process of everybody handling everything from your expenses and bank account and incoming, outgoing expenses has taken so much off the plate that it gives you time to do what you need to do.
Definitely,
I can't imagine anybody running a business and just trying to do all that themselves, honestly.
Yeah, we have people that come to us and they're like, I'm just so lost. And I was like, I can imagine, because I can't personally, and I say this all the time, I can't imagine having to do my own marketing, having to do, managing my own investments and doing all that stuff. It's just a lot. And I tell a lot of people, you're really good at what you're doing, right? So, and the people who are, the entrepreneurs, you're really great at how to make your business run. Right. And that's why you are where you are. But no one's great at everything. You can't be a great accountant and a great tax person and a
Right.
great investment and know your banking, and it's just too hard.
That's true.
That's why you have to have all these people to lean on and kind of guide you, because if you can really focus on what you're really good at, everyone else will fill in the
Right.
in the missing space for you.
Absolutely.
And I think it's really cool. I think we're seeing a lot more younger entrepreneurs trying to get into do their own thing.
Yeah.
And I actually think it's funny. In my neighborhood, I live in East Mesa.
Yeah.
There's just so many kids that are constantly doing like little pop-up stands, from lemonade stands,
right.
bake sales.
I see those as well.
There's these little kids that are like setting up their own shop. They make their own necklaces and earrings
Yeah.
and all that stuff.
Nice.
And you can tell, like, just from so small, they want to be independent and do their own thing.
Yeah.
And like, it's, I don't know, some of them are so little. I'm like, that's so cool. I
Right.
would have never done that when I was a little kid.
Yeah, I think we did lemonade stands, but that was about the extent of it. And I think we drank more than we sold. So I don't
Yeah,
know.
like even
Yeah.
we had soccer practice last night, and one of the girls, she's making these little, I don't know, they're little loom bracelets.
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, do you want one? I'll make you one. And I was like, yeah, for sure. She's like, okay, it's going to cost money though. And I was like, holy. I was like, oh my gosh, she's got me on the rinks here.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, well, I'm paying market value though. I'm not paying the adjusted
Right.
heightened prices. And she
Right.
thought it was really funny. But she was only like 6 years old.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And she's like, I want
So
to
what
make
did she
money.
get you for?
She hasn't told me yet.
Oh, okay.
She said I can pre-order other ones though if I'm
Oh,
ready.
okay.
And I was like, okay, let me ask everyone who I need a pre-order for.
That's awesome.
But yeah, no, what if, since a lot of people are going, doing their own thing, entrepreneurship,
Mm-hmm.
do you have any advice for people who want to get started out in the investment world? They're different. I mean, everyone takes a different route. But
Well, they do, and like matter of fact, I have a nephew, and he started working at a temp agency.
okay.
He actually had a degree in music.
Okay.
So as you can tell, it wasn't an easy field to find work in. He thought he
Yeah.
was going to be in a band. He's a great, guitarist and drummer and everything, but
Yeah.
that didn't end up panning out. And at 29, he decided he needed to move on and
Yeah.
started with a temp company. And he's working for I can't even think of the name of the company, a large investment firm.
Mm-hmm.
And so he started in customer service.
Of course.
And they basically gave him, I want to say, 6 months to go out and get his Series 6 and 7.
Okay. Is that like an online test you take? I've never heard of it.
No, well,
I mean, I've heard of it, I just don't know what it entails.
You have to get books and learn all the investment laws and
Okay.
different things, but it's a pretty difficult test.
Yeah.
There's a series of tests. There's Blue Sky Laws. There's the Series 6, the Series 7. But they're taken at a testing center, and
Okay.
they basically strip you of everything except for your top clothes,
Yeah.
and make you go in, and they give you it's a time test.
Yeah.
It could be 80 questions, could be 150.
Sounds
I
like
don't
our
remember,
EA
but-
test that we had to study for a while. Yeah.
Right. So the 65 is a little bit different. That's the fiduciary portion of it. It allows you to sell packaged products. So everything I sell, I don't sell individual stock to people. Mm-hmm. I could build a portfolio, put a name on it, and sell that to somebody, or
Got
have
it.
a computer program do that. But I literally pay Gradient Investments to build the portfolios,
Got it.
and it's their niche of portfolios that I use. And,
Yeah.
which means I make less money, but that's kind of like hiring you. I hire them they're the experts on it.
Totally.
And basically go from there. So I'm not constantly buying and selling stocks in somebody's portfolio.
Yeah.
It's totally handled by Gradient. So
Got
that's
it.
kind of
Yeah.
nice.
So he's in customer service, moved out. Did he do his 6 months already?
Well, he's there, so he's almost there, but he is past the Series 6. Mm-hmm. He's past the Blue Sky, and I think he takes the 7 in 2 weeks, and he'll be
Nice.
done. But he did pass the 6, and in that business, if you would have failed the 6, he'd have been done. They'd have fired him that day.
Oh my gosh.
So there's a lot of pressure, but if you're a good text taker, you can, if you study well
Yeah.
and retain information, it's achievable for most people. And for a lot of people, I got lucky. I was able to kind of branch out on my own. Mm-hmm. I had a little bit of capital to take care of that, but it's the investment world is in Arizona at least kind of dog eat dog.
Is it? Is it
There's a lot of us.
cutthroat?
There's a lot of us here.
Yeah.
So, I don't do a ton of marketing, but I hire, a firm to do some Facebook ads and
Got it.
and different things like that, some Google ads, and that brings in a little business. But for the most part, you have to rely on referrals and things, and as you're growing, it takes, it's taken 10 years to really be in a position where
Your base getting pretty solid.
right. There's some people that come in that you don't want to work with.
Oh, I know that.
And you know that.
Yeah, I know that.
Matter of fact, I had a guy say that he only wanted a text, and everything ended in exclamation points, and you could tell he was an angry person, and
Yeah.
I just sent him a text back, and I said, Chuck, I don't think we're going to be a good fit.
Yeah.
And he
It
said,
happens sometimes.
that's fine, and we moved on.
Yeah.
So it's nice to be able to get to a point where, you can tell people that you don't want to work with them if that's and not everybody's a good fit.
Yeah. Which it's hard, right? When you run your own business, you have to balance like, probably need to pay my bills.
Right.
But it's also hard to work with hard people.
It is, and communication's huge in this business.
Yeah.
I mean, I have to sit down with people at least once a year, but I'd prefer quarterly. And if
course.
people don't really care about their investment, I'm not saying I don't, but somebody that wants to come in quarterly and talk things over are going to have better performance because we're going to maybe make a few changes, or
course,
maybe
yeah,
their
no, that
risk
makes
tolerance has changed. People's risk tolerance has changed in the last 6 months with the election that took place yesterday was coming up. They didn't know what was going to happen with the election.
Oh my gosh, no one did. Everything was,
and we still don't. I mean,
things change so much
between
from
now
presidency.
and 6 months, we have no idea what's going to happen.
We don't know everything's going to be on the table in the new year.
Yep.
And that's why it's good, right, to keep up to date, like where things are right now. Like, hey, let's meet right after first quarter, and they could change everything up on its head, right?
Right. And history tells us that anytime there's a change from one party to the other, that the market's always up the next year. But I think history is different today. We have a president that was in office, from 2016 to 2020. Now that person's back. There's probably a lot of sentiment on the other side that's not good, and we just don't know. And it could have been the same way if the other party would have won last night. And so it's just we're dealing with the unknown today, and what we'll experience in the future.
Yeah, for sure. Well, do you have any last words of wisdom for people who want to get into the game? Anything to impart on them that you're like, hey, I can help you out with?
Yeah, I mean, if people wanted to contact me to ask questions about getting in the business, I'd certainly answer anything and everything, and I'm sure you guys would do the same. But it's just it's a long haul to start, and you kind of got to be mentally prepared for it, I think.
Yeah.
Yep.
But I think the easiest, advice you could say is like just start.
Just start, even if it's small. Like just getting the license. You have to hang the license somewhere. You know, and that's the toughest part. You have a year to put it in with a firm, and you usually have to have a sponsor to start. So.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I usually have to have a sponsor, like somebody that that's going to say, hey, he can hang his hat here, or she. Okay. And if you don't, you won't be able to take the test, I believe, at this point. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So you do need to find some kind of a home, but you can study and be ready for it.
All on your own.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, when I took my test, they changed the entire book on July 1st. And I passed the test on June 30th. If I would have failed on June 30th, I would have had to buy a new book and restudy,
That happens with our tax test too. They changed everything that's involved with it it's every May. So when I was taking mine, I was like, oh my God, I need a pass, or I have to get a new book.
Right. Is that your master's in taxation, or what is that?
Dee and I both have our EA.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's our enrolled agent status. She has her master's in a lot of things.
Yeah.
So she gets all those things. But our EA, you can take that. It means you're, enrolled to practice before the IRS. It's a specific test, specific on tax law, how to apply it. We also have ethics and continuing education we have to take every year to keep our license.
Gotcha.
But it's really good. Keeping up to date is super helpful because I don't think people realize how often things change. The things that they put in place every year, and that's why we're going to send out an email today, is that the IRS actually closes down on November 30th, and they don't open for 3 more months. So you can't file anything for 3 months of the year.
I never even knew that.
Yeah, wow. Yeah. So if if you need to say someone came to me December 20th, they're like, can you e-file my return? I'd be like, literally no, it's not open. It closes. And they do that to make adjustments, change tax forms, all that kinds of stuff.
I'll be darned. Okay.
Yeah. So, but yeah,
Good to
things
know.
change so often with tax law and how it's, I guess, anything. It's just crazy. So, but yeah, it's a lot. And it's good for us to stay up to date because, you know, we never want to get caught with, you know, our pants down and being like, oh, and they're like, well, that changed. Be like,
For sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, and it's good to stay up on the ethics, you know.
Right.
People don't realize how important that is to keep, you know, everything in line and the due diligence we have to do with everyone. So when people are like, just use whatever information I gave you last year, and I'm like, I would rather die.
Literally can't.
Yeah, I just can't do it.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, no, I appreciate all the information that you gave to us, our listeners. We don't have a lot of listeners, but there are people out there that are getting a ton of information, and we have people commenting on our videos all the time.
Nice.
So I'll push out all your information on the channel.
It's all about the hashtags.
Yeah, we got to get the hashtags out there. We'll tag your information, and yeah, if anyone has any information or questions for Dan on both being an entrepreneur, on investments, or kind of getting into the game as well, he'd be happy to talk to you. He's here in the same building as us. We see him pretty often. So if he wanted to reach out to us, we'll get you right over to him. But it's good talking to you all today. We look forward to our next episode next week. We have another guest who is also an entrepreneur. He's been doing a lot here in Gilbert with commercial real estate, etc. So we hope you guys find interest in that and come back and listen next week. See you soon.
Thank you.